it's easy words to say, know your own mind, but what to do with it is the key to success, And that's the revelation. So when we were talking, in the Australia, we had the weekend course with the with a little group in Melbourne, some students of Lama Zopa, and we used Lama Yeshe's book on Mahamudra. So Mahamudra is this seemingly very is a highly advanced practice. Actually, to really succeed at it, you need to be a pretty advanced practitioner, but it's something everybody can try. It's marvelous, and we'll talk about it, It's actually a technique utilizing the two main types of meditation in Buddhism, using the two main modes of meditation, but how to really get to hear, to listen to see the way ego works. And why we want to do that is because that's why we suffer. So the meditation is to focus not on your breath, and we'll do a little bit of meditation before we finish today. Let's do a 5-minute little technique to help us be our own therapists. But in this technique, the object of concentration is the mind itself. And this is so tasty, I tell you. It seems extremely simple, and it is technically simple. But Lama really stresses why Lama Tsongkhapa says the mind is such a powerful object to concentrate on rather than the breath or something else, because the mind is so special. The way Buddhism talks about the mind is pretty incredible, So it's really delicious. And I think we should just even do a little bit now. It's only 5 past. We've got 55 minutes to go. So why don't we just do that? Why don't we just check our bodies? There's about, in the traditional techniques from the great yogis over the centuries, they've found there's about 7 or 8 little part of the bits to pay attention to in the body, to get the body to be most conducive to be able to meditate. Because the body doesn't meditate. We get so obsessed with our bodies. If we have a nice meditation, it's because we felt good in our body. Who cares? It's your mind that meditates. So let's just do this simple little technique. And it's very delicious. We'll talk about it. So just get your body right, okay? The ideal scenario is to have your legs in what they call full lotus position. And this is for the most advanced practitioners who sit there day and night, unpacking and unraveling and transforming their minds, because that's what you're doing as a meditator, but just spacing out. Then to have the body, like, this recent Geshe Lama Kontrok, one of our great yogis who spent years and years and years up in a cave in the middle of nowhere with no clothes and no food and no sleep and no water because he was so advanced. He lived in Vajrayogini's Pure Land, Lama Zopa said. Because he sat there day and night, day and day and day after day, because they're in samadhi, these amazing geniuses. So they need to be staying stable. They don't sit against a wall. They don't sit in a chair. So they sit in the full lotus position, and it keeps the body very stable. You don't topple over. So it's so practical. But not just that, it kind of aligns the subtler energies that they talk about in the body so that the mind can flow very smoothly. So the full lotus is ideal. And Dalai Lama, His Holiness said, actually, he said, if you can start your session in full lotus, it's so auspicious, it like creates the cause to be able to do it in the future when we're more advanced practitioners, when we do the completion stage tantric practices, when we need to have the body like that. So it's really auspicious to do that. Just for a second, if you can. This is marvelous. If you can't have one leg across the other, if you can't do that, regular cross-legged. If you can't do that, sit in a chair. If you can't do that, lie down. Whatever you can do, okay, So that's the first thing. And then the second one is your bottom. So the bottom, if you're very flexible with your legs, you just need a little bit of cushion just under your coccyx to kind of prop you up, Or if you're not like that, you find a cushion that works. But if you're in a chair, what's crucial, because this is the next point, is your back. Your back should be upright. Clearly your spine isn't straight, but your body should be upright. Why? Is because these subtle energies, they don't flow smoothly. If you're all slumped over, you'll go to sleep, So have your body upright. But if you're sitting in a chair, it's really important you don't slump into the back of the chair. So, I'm in a chair, so I'll be slumping back like that. So you sit upright. In other words, you hold up your own body. That's what the yogis doing in their sitting cross-legged. They're holding up their own body, So that means your muscles have to be relaxed. Our problem is as soon as we put our body upright, we tense the muscles. The shoulders, they mention in these 8 different points, the shoulders. They don't mention the abdomen, but it's really important. We squeeze our abdomen because we don't like to look fat. So we're so used to holding our abdomen tight. Relax your abdomen. Relax the muscles. Keep your body upright, but flop the muscles. Your shoulders upright. Okay. Your hands in the prayer mudra. This is the classic one, the meditation mudra that we're taught, but there are many. You can choose. Left underneath, right on top, thumbs touching, And I've heard something way back when I first heard the Dharma. I heard something like there's two subtle channels related to bodhicitta at the tips of the thumbs, something like that. So in your lap. So that's your legs, your back, your bottom, your hands, your shoulders. Then there's the head, really important. So don't have your head thrust back, makes the mind agitated. Slightly tilted forward, chin tucked in, okay? Jaw relaxed, lips apart, which feels odd initially, but lips apart. Then even more odd is you have the tip of the tongue behind the top teeth, just near the palate. And the yogis have found, guess what, that it stops you from dribbling. So practical. Or from having to swallow your spit all the time. And then finally, your eyes. So again, all the great yogis, if they're meditating throughout the day, they want the light to come in to keep their mind sharp. But because they've got such good concentration, they don't get distracted by all the sensory objects. But of course we do, because we haven't got good concentration. So we're going to do like 5 minutes here, you know. So keep them closed, it's okay. But beneath your eyelids, having your eyes look down along your nose as if you're looking at the ground. That's the plan. That's the position coming from the great meditators over the centuries, that makes it most conducive for your mind to do the job of meditating. Because remember, your body doesn't meditate. So now just settle into this position, okay? And relax and forget the body. So what we're going to do, we'll just simply do it, and then we'll talk about it. Just do it. I will talk more later about what's involved in meditation, what part of our mind. So we've got to pay attention. Think of it that way. Pay attention, your teacher says. If you're driving on the freeway, you better pay attention, baby. You'll be dead if you don't. So you pay attention. And what we're going to do with determination, we say to ourselves, I'm going to pay attention to whatever pops up in my mind. That's it. This is the object of your meditation. Object in this context always means your mind is a subject, and whatever it cognizes, that's the object. The object of your mind, the object of your mind. So the object here is whatever pops up in your mind. That's how you start this meditation. You don't worry about it. You don't think about it. You don't want to try and bring thoughts. You don't try to stop the thoughts. You don't have a conversation with the thoughts. You know, you just let whatever comes come and go. And you're going to, with determination, keeping your mind sharp, you're going to pay attention to whatever pops up in your mind. That's the job. That's it. That's the job. And we do it for like 4 quality minutes. Just pay attention to whatever pops up in your mind, your thoughts. And you don't involve in them. That's the key. That's the success. You let them come and let them go. That's it. Watch your mind. Pay attention to your thoughts. Just keep your mind sharp. Just watch whatever comes and let it go right away again. Don't engage. Keep your mind alert. Just watch the thoughts. Okay, that was about 4 minutes. So 4 minutes seems very short. But think about it. For 4 minutes, we made an effort to stay focused. That's not bad. Normally 4 minutes just goes down the toilet, you know. So, okay, let's look at why are we doing this? Why would we want to just watch our thoughts? Why would we do this? Well, I mean, to understand this, we have to understand Buddha's view of the mind and its potential, its amazing potential. So, with the mind, okay, of course, we know Buddha means it's not your brain, it's not in your toenail. Your mind is not physical, it courses throughout your body, which sounds curious to us. But your mind is all at the grosser level. We live at this grosser level, isn't it? We wake up in the morning, we go to sleep at night, and we're on the case with sensory consciousness and with mental consciousness. So already this is incredible to begin to see the difference. We, as Lama Yeshe says, we make the body the boss, you know, because we conflate our sensory experiences and our mental, and they are utterly and completely different. And this is a very sobering thought already to even understand this, you know. So here we're in that meditation, this Mahamudra, the first stage of it, which is the concentration part. It's not the second stage. The second stage is where you do the part to try and understand emptiness. This first part, you're using the object of your focus, not your breath, not a visualization, but just what pops up in the mind. That's initially. So the ideal scenario is when the mind starts to calm down, and that's lucky if it does, very fortunate, then you begin to focus on what they call the clarity of your mind, which is its non-physicality. It's quite subtle. Most of us might even get there. But the point is this. This is very powerful in Buddhist psychology. You hear it in all the different traditions, you know, that one of the key things is we need to do is simply observe what's going on without, and this is why it's so good, without deciding what it is. This is a really helpful thing just to watch it, you know. And the reason is because if you look at our mind during the day, if we're busy in the kitchen and busy in the traffic, but there's no big drama going on, we are thinking all the time. We're actually thinking all the time. We're driving on autopilot. We're doing the dishes on autopilot. And we actually are thinking all the time. But we don't know what we're thinking because it's just automatic, because the thoughts are completely uncontrolled. And that's normal in our culture. That's normal in neuroscience. You know, we don't have any techniques in the West that haven't come from Asia to help control the thoughts. So we don't pay attention. We just don't pay attention. They're all just chatting away and we don't pay attention. It's only when the thoughts are shouting, when you're really angry with your husband or really upset about the boss, then you can't help but be completely involved, totally immersed in all these thoughts. So the idea to merely watch your thoughts and not be immersed in them, this is almost impossible for us. So why is that good? Well, because at the moment, we live at the conceptual level. Even our emotions are conceptually based. This is how Buddha's saying. Even our emotions. When we say anger, what we mostly mean by anger is the body. But what Buddha's talking about is the conceptual story deeper down beneath the emotion that's informing that feeling, informing those crazy thoughts, you know. So the thing is, we have to learn to realize that we can change the thoughts. That's the one thing we don't realize. We utterly believe that whatever's in our thoughts are set in stone. If anger is a very strong habit, I'm an angry person and that's it. There's no techniques to not be angry. There's no real belief that I can fundamentally change my anger because we just think it's set in stone. It's part of my brain. It's who I am, you know. So whatever the stories are, if you're really mad at your husband or mad at the traffic, then whatever the story is, how dare you do that to me? It is not fair. We have no method to really analyze it. We have no way of really knowing we can try and change it. We believe this is real. We believe the story anger tells us, because what anger is a story. And it believes that driver did that. And it believes that husband is that. And it believes, and we never doubt for 1 second what those stories are saying. So that's what Buddha's saying. They're conceptual stories. Whatever goes on in our mental consciousness, not our sensory, our mental consciousness. The sensory consciousness, sees, I always use this example, sees here a shape and color. That's all mental. Eye consciousness can only cognize shape and color, not anything else. It does, but what we think we're seeing is, I would say, it's a very well-designed thermos. Within a second, I'm saying that. So there's two parts of my mind there. Sensory consciousness cognizes the shape and the color. That's it. It's like a dumb animal. It doesn't have the capacity to cognize more. That man you think is so horrible, that ugly boyfriend who's harming you. You see an ugly person. You believe that he is ugly in his bones. But your eye consciousness is not seeing ugly. You just see shape and color. Now, where does the ugly come from? Where does beautiful thermos come from? That's the mental consciousness. And we have to distinguish. This is already radical, the way Buddha looks at it. Because the mental consciousness, Lama Zopa puts it, that's where the workshop is. That's where the workshop is. And it's working 24 hours a day, even when we're sleeping. Look at us. All the stories playing out, not a minute's peace. And we think, this is who I am. It is set in stone. It's my body, it's my brain, it's my genes, it's my DNA, it's my father, my mother, who knows what. And we are stuck with it. I mean, no wonder we kill ourselves, No wonder we despair, because we believe this is me. This is the tragedy. This is the most tragic thing. And this is the liberating thing. I mean, but Buddha's way of seeing the mind, his expertise is this mind, and how to recognize it, how to hear it, listen to the stories, unpack and unravel them, argue with them, and change them. We're not set in stone. That's the most radical thing that Buddha has. And that's how come we end up being a Buddha, That's what the job is, to turn ourselves into this marvelous person. And the part of us we're turning into it is our mind. Yeah, you can fix your nose and your ears, that's okay. But it's your mind you're changing. So this meditation, just observe the thoughts without immersing ourselves in them. In other words, get ourselves out of our head. That's what we're trying to do in the beginning. So you might not get concentration. In this life, you've got to give up sex, drugs, and rock and roll and go to the mountains to get concentration. It's a pretty intense thing. Most of us don't have that condition. Most of us won't do that, But the benefit that comes from 4 minutes or 5 or 3, start with that. We did an entire retreat with Lama Yeshe for 1 month one time, and he made us do 5-minute sessions. Because we think, some people can sit very comfortably. And they may say they're spacing out for 30 minutes, but they think they're meditating. No, you're not. You're just spacing out, feeling good. That ain't meditation, baby. So this one, just attempting to observe what arises without feeding into it, is very beneficial, because you're not, you can't help but notice it. You can't help but notice it's anger, but you're not going to feed into it. You can't help but notice, but it's maybe confusion or feeling jealous or something when it's strong thoughts, especially when it's strong thoughts. So the benefit from that, the benefit is that when you open your eyes and start doing the dishes and dealing with your boyfriend again, what you're learning is this ability to step out of your head. Normally we're immersed and we don't notice, but now you've got the ability, you're training yourself by not falling into the thoughts in that 4 minutes. So the skill that you bring to bear as soon as you open your eyes is this ability. So you're doing the dishes, but you're noticing your thoughts. There's your husband slurping his tea and you can't stand it and you blurt out your mouth, stop slurping your tea. But when you begin to watch your mind, or even watch your breath, but here we're talking about the mind because it's more powerful, then you're learning the ability to step out of your head and pay more attention. So then you bring that to bear, and while you're doing the dishes and you're noting yourself getting annoyed, and you catch it before it's out the mouth. That's the benefit. We might not get concentration in this life. Most of us is extremely advanced, and although we've had it in countless lives, Buddha says, we've had it many lifetimes. So we need to, so this is this is another point. What this is bringing me to is some of the incredible misconceptions about this word meditation in our culture. So people can make up their own word. They can make up their own style. Buddha does not own it. He is not a boss. He's not a creator. He didn't invent it. He doesn't have copyright on it. But he's got his own style. So you're saying you're doing Buddhist meditation. You don't just make it up, please. You check and you be authentic. And there's many kinds of meditation. There are 2 modes of meditation, 2 kinds, that's it, millions of techniques. So this first one is actually called shamatha, and it means calm abiding. It's the end result of this technique. And it's this brilliant, subtle, sophisticatedly brilliant psychological skill where you've accomplished this ability to have your mind single-pointed, beyond sensory, beyond the conceptual, which is pretty cosmic for us, where it's super focused, super subtle. In this book of Mahamudra, Lama just talks a little bit about some of the advantages, unbelievable qualities you would have if you accomplish calm abiding. He said it's almost like impossible to believe, but this is the point. And this has been around for 3,000 years, you know. We're only now just discovering it. It's incredible. So that we might not get that, but by practicing it, we can get enormous benefits. So some of the misconceptions, one biggest misconception about this type of meditation, the specific method that the world vaguely knows as mindfulness, and people have made up their own style, and that's okay. But we're talking the Buddhist one here. The one misconception is it's an alternative to a pill. This is very, very deep inside us. In other words, there's an assumption that it's only when you're miserable would you do meditation. So if I'm in love with Fred and we're treating each other beautifully and we have a gorgeous relationship and someone says you should learn to meditate, I'll be shocked. What for? We're happy. So for us, it is an alternative to a pill. So that means we only do it when we're desperate or when the wheels are falling off. But the Buddha's saying, no, we should learn to do it because our mind is working all the time. And his view of what goes on in the mind is pretty subtle. So he says, by becoming familiar with your mind every day, when things are just normal, and you deal with the baby problems, when the wheels are wobbling, don't wait for them to fall off. When you're ready to kill yourself or your boyfriend, that's too late. You learn to deal with the wobbling while you're getting annoyed with this slurping his tea. Then you work on your mind, but you have to pay attention to your mind. You have to even notice that the angry thoughts are chatting away there before they vomit out the mouth. That's the skill. Now, it sounds easy to say that, but it's not, because we're so habituated with our old habits and we're so fooling ourselves. We're having all these conversations in our head, and then because, you know, and we just don't notice half the time what's happening because the thoughts are so quick. I think even in Buddhist, Western psychology, they talk about if we have 1,000 thoughts a second, you know. And the Buddha's approach is that we can learn to harness all of that. Because guess whose mind it is? It's mine, baby. If I can't handle my mind, who in the name of heaven can? This is Buddha's expertise. You know, it's incredible. So, of course, the first misconception is that it's an alternative to a pill. The second one is it's a relaxation technique. There are wonderful relaxation techniques of yoga teachers. This is amazing. Use them. We need relaxing. We're crazy. But this is not that. It's the opposite to relaxation. It's like if you think the main thing you've got to do when you learn to drive on the freeway is relax, you'll be dead in a minute. No, you've got to have laser-like focus, and you can never lose your focus for 1 second going 100 miles an hour on the freeway. You know that perfectly well. But when you know how to drive well, you can learn to relax. Yeah, but in the beginning, forget it. So it's not a relaxation technique at all. It's a training to help the mind be sharp. Why? So in your daily life, you can see what the hell is going on in this mind of ours. So we can unpack and unravel it. So we can become familiar with the workings of our own mind. This is the most down-to-earth way of saying the benefit of having even a 4-minute session in the morning. Of course, if you're a full-fledged Tibetan Buddhist, you've got all your deity practices and all those. That's different, you know. We're talking a simple technique to help start your day. And you're learning to see what's going on in your mind. You're learning to step out of your head so you can notice. The other misconception, and this is why this is because we only do it when when the wheels are falling off. Then of course we can't stand the pain in our head. We know it is unbearable. The jealousy, the pain, the hurt, the grief, the loss, the anger is unbearable. We cannot bear the pain. So of course we think of meditation as a magical technique that'll make it all go away. That's why we do it, to make it go away, because we can't bear it. No, in fact, in the texts, this technique is described in terms of 9 stages of cultivation. And in the texts, they say one of the signs of success at the first of the 9 stages is you think your mind's getting more berserk, but it's not. You're noticing it. That's the point. That's the point. And so what happens when people become Buddhist, you know, using Buddhism as an example of a spiritual path, what you're going to be doing is becoming familiar with your mind. And also when you learn the teachings and hear about the 3 poisons, of course, you're focusing on the rubbish. As one of my therapist friends who's a Buddhist is, when you're learning to do this job properly, you're having your hands in your own shit. And this is not a joke. It's absolutely true if you're really trying to work on your mind. So then we're overwhelmed by the negativity. We're overwhelmed by the jealousy and the anger and the fears. We know the Buddha's telling us we can change it, but we don't feel very confident about that. It's too much for us. We can't handle it, you know. So we then want it to all go away. Well, that's not the purpose of this meditation. And it's also not to have, one of the obsessive ideas we have about meditation in the West is you're going to get some kind of a spiritual experience. Well, yeah. So what's a spiritual experience? People usually mean it's some kind of cosmic thing. This is ridiculous. Controlling your anger is a spiritual experience, believe me. That's a good one. But having a blissful vision or something, and this is why the Buddhists would say the mind is so powerful, because one of the things about the mind in Buddhism, this is really fascinating. Whatever we experience, see, hear, taste, touch, smell, think about, none of it goes astray. Everything gets stored in the mind. I know Geshe Tashi in London, he said it's like you're shooting a movie all day. Nothing goes astray, even though 99% of it we're not aware of. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Everything goes in. And this, of course, Buddha says our mind comes from the past, and we've got these countless lifetimes of stuff. So we're lugging along with us life after life, billions of imprints, billions of images in our mind. And we can just access maybe a tiny percentage. That's it. But that's all stuffed in there. So this is the point. We know mind is powerful. Look what the dreams people have. People have visions. People have clairvoyant experiences. And we have no idea where they're coming from because they're all stored in our mind. They're all stored there. And we access the miniature percentage of it because we live at the grosser level, which is conceptuality. I mean, for example, we talk about how you can't remember a past life. Who remembers a past life? We don't remember most of today. That'd be ridiculous because conceptuality doesn't have that capability. But it's all we know in our culture. It's all we know. So the mind is so powerful because it contains so much. And that's often why we go crazy. We can't cope with it because we don't know where it comes from. We don't know why all this stuff appears. And as we say, you didn't ask to get born. Suddenly you find yourself being angry and raging. Where does this come from? It's not my fault. I didn't ask to get born. We don't know what to do with it because we believe it's set in stone. It's just these thoughts are there, and we buy into their stories. We believe they're true 1 billion%, and we believe they're set in stone. This is the source of our insanity. So one of the jobs we have to learn to do as a Buddhist, taking these Buddhist views, becoming familiar with your mind. So why? So that during your day, and this is really the simple way of describing the two modes of meditation. The second mode is where you've got to get insight. Well, most of us aren't going to sit down on our cushion, having heard about dependent arising, and then get single point of concentration, and then do the second mode and get, do a subtle logical analysis about dependent arising so we can realize emptiness. We need to eventually. That's sophisticated. But we're going to be going on all day trying to work out what the hell's going on. That's getting insight. We've got to get insight into our anger, insight into our jealousy, insight into our feelings. So we've got to see that these thoughts are real, they're there, they're mine, they're my habits, but we can change them. And the step in the changing of them is becoming familiar with them intimately and learning to make friends with all your crazy thoughts. I call them my roommates. Our thoughts are our roommates. Got to become friends with those roommates, not resist them, not wish they'd go away, not like that. You've got to have the courage to have your hands in it and to confront them and hear them. But this is a crucial point too. This is how that Mama talks in Mahamudra. The context for this, looking into your horrible mind, looking into the unhappiness and being brave to own it. The framework within which you do this is not self-hate, is self-respect. Because you can change them. So you want to own all these parts of yourself. But the framework is to develop your amazing potential. If we can begin to understand, as Lama talks in Mahamudra, just how extraordinary is our potential as a human being. We do not talk like this in our culture. We got potential to be carpenters and ballet dancers, but the potential to be a marvelous person, to be less neurotic and angry and jealous and more kind and brave and wise and courageous. This is amazing. And this will lift us up. So when you've got the courage to know that you've got marvelous potential, then you're more courageous in owning the rubbish, because that's the stuff that's holding you back. But if we, like ego, believe this is who I am, who wants to look at their horrible stuff? Nobody on the planet. We want it to go away. We can't bear the pain, but you can bear the pain when you know it's not set in stone. And that's the key shift we have to make. I mean, I meet people endlessly in the teachings crying. I've been practicing 30 years and I still get angry. And I mean, it's heartbreaking that they talk this way. What do you think? Don't hold your breath, baby. Anger's deep. But be happy that for those 30 years you've been making progress. But we often don't even think we've been making progress. And this is the irony of attachment. Attachment is this bottomless pit of dissatisfaction. That's its tragedy. We always are dissatisfied, no matter how much we've done, how many years of practice, how much we've accomplished. It's never enough. We always want more. We always assume it's not enough. That's the default assumption of attachment. As Lama Zopa says, that's the main suffering in the West. So we've got to change these conceptual stories. We've got to reconfigure our conceptual stories. And because that's what all the thoughts and emotions are. They're rooted in being conceptual stories. And because they're not set in stone is why we learn to get more courage. Then we can listen to these roommates and welcome them. That's not a joke. It's so true. You know, what we do is resist these roommates. We can't stand the anger and the jealousy and the fear. We can't stand the anxiety and the panic and the worry. We over-exaggerate it. We identify this is me. We think it's set in stone. So, of course, we go crazy. So when we know it's not our real nature, when we know our real nature is sublime and amazing, then we have the courage to listen to and think about this stuff. And we're not scared of it. We've got to learn to not be scared of our emotions. And we are, you know. And of course, especially in our culture, I mean, a friend of mine who's, you know, been labeled bipolar, and she's depressed and upset about it, and I'm set in stone, I'm born this way, what can I do? It's my brain, it's a disaster, and just miserable. And I told her that back in the 60s, the 70s, early 70s, me and my 6 siblings in Australia were all diagnosed by the one psychiatrist as manic depressive, which is, we have another term for it before. I thought he'd won the lottery, getting an entire family, you know. And I remember thinking, at the time I was an old radical lefty, a radical feminist political activist, I remember. And I didn't want to know about his all pathetic, old boring, old male views. I told him to stick his old views. I didn't care. I thought, if I'm crazy, I'll manage it. So if somehow I am crazy, my mum is berserk. Look at me, I can speak so fast. My thoughts, can you imagine the speed they go at? But I wasn't scared of it. Okay, maybe I should have been. I might have been so mean to other people. People are scared of it, you know, but I wasn't scared of it. So this is really powerful. I'm very fortunate. So I was hopefully trying to learn to hear all this stuff, own it, know it's mine, don't blame anybody else, don't blame your mum, don't blame your genes, don't blame your DNA, don't blame the boyfriend, own it, have some courage and own it, and then you can change it. That's the point. That's the point. And that's what these marvelous practices in Tibetan Buddhism, in the Vajrayana, of identifying with the deities, you know, we'll do some of those meditations some Sundays, we'll do those. Like, for example, Tara. This amazing female energy, this amazing Buddha. She's the manifestation of the power, action energy of a Buddha's mind. So it's depicted as female, quick energy, cut through the obstacles, make things happen, be successful. So just to do a little meditation, identifying with that is so sublime. It lifts us, you know. These are such important meditations. And we'll do some of these as we go along, you know, because it lifts us. It lifts us. Wow. Because those meditations, they talk about them, they describe them as you're visualizing Tara outside you, and you do these little meditations, and then you visualize becoming oneness with that energy, and you become it yourself. They say it's like bringing the end result into the present. Well, I remember one time years ago, Serena in the Australian Open, you saw, and the cameras went up close while she was sitting having a little break, and it seemed like she had a little notebook, and she was reading her affirmations. Well, that's what Tantra is. I am Tara. This is who I am. You're identifying. She was imagining winning the Australian Open. Well, that's positive. It's called positive thinking. Positive psychology. Buddha's your supreme positive psychologist, I promise you. The ultimate in positive psychology. So we learn to identify with our good parts, the good roommates. But at the moment, our good roommates are sleeping under the bed and in the cupboard and scared to come out because all the crazies are running the show, isn't it? And then they're the ones we think this is who I am, but they're not. They're just loud and noisy, that's all. So bring out the good roommates. And this is the other thing, which sounds hilarious to us, but we think our mind is this thing that's got its own energy and it's dragging us along. We don't have we think, well, all the thoughts are coming. What can I do? Well, they're your thoughts, honey. That's why watching your mind for 5 minutes and not buying into them is very powerful, because you're stopping believing I'm that angry thought. You know, it's very powerful. And then slowly you can actively bring out the good roommates and actively, proactively have positive thoughts. Just because a negative thought arises, because it's a habit, doesn't mean you'd have to, now, one, doesn't mean you have to believe it. And two, doesn't mean you can't consciously put in a positive thought. That's okay. And you argue with yourself. That's why being your own therapist is a good analogy. You argue with yourself. You bring your good roommates out and they argue with the rubbish roommates. And then eventually it's the good roommates. And this is the point the Buddha makes. psychologically, in our culture, using neuroscience, this does not make sense. It doesn't fit. But this is Buddha's view. It's very encouraging. The delusions, the neuroses, the neurotic states of mind, the anger, the depression, the anxiety, and the jealousy, etc., which are so prevalent in us, even if they're just there a little bit, because they're so habitual, we believe we give them equal status, don't we? We give them equal status along with love and kindness and intelligence, because our view in the modern world and our view in neuroscience is that that's just they're the normal components of a normal person. So we hope we'll have a bit less anger and jealousy and more love and kindness. You know, we know that, but there's no view that is as radical as Buddha's. And his view from his own direct experience is that the negative ones, the neurotic ones, the deluded ones, as they say in Buddhist psychology, they are adventitious. This is a profound, outrageous, radical concept, that they are not at the core of our being. You don't just believe it. There's logic to this, and it takes time to see the logic, but it's right there in the Buddhist method, you know, that these are adventitious. They're not integral to who we are. They are not at the core of our being. We're not set in stone, in other words. So we can not just lessen these conceptual stories. Eventually, as we progress, we can utterly rid our mind of them. This is radical. There's no equivalent. We don't know what to do with that in our culture. But not only that, we can develop to perfection the other roommates. They are at the core of our being. They are who we really are. This is the Buddhist view. It's a pretty shocking concept, you know. So, of course, if we just think as Buddhism as religion, oh, you can say what you like, then we don't take it very seriously. But if we hear it as direct experience from this dude called Buddha 2,500 years ago, and all the people since then who've done exactly what Buddha did. He said, this is my methodology. This is what you can achieve. Over to you, baby. This is how come Buddhism is so alive right now, 2,500 years later, because we've had these living knowledge holders, Rigsin in Tibetan, real people really doing this work. If this were just some trippy thing made up by the Buddha 2,500 years ago, it would not be extant now. It would be as dead as a doornail. And clearly, look at the people like the Dalai Lama. He's a living example of this knowledge. That means it's come in an unbroken chain of humans from him right back to the Buddha. That's kind of tasty, you know. It's the same with any body of knowledge. I mean, my mother's a classical musician. She knows how to play Bach. She didn't get it out of the sky. It wasn't some dead myth that she picked up and started again. That means it's living knowledge. There's this word in Tibetan, so delicious, Rigsin, knowledge holder. She got it from her teacher, who got it from her teacher. And if you mentioned every one of those names, you'd have an unbroken chain of knowledge holders right back to Bach. That's what real knowledge is, living knowledge, experiential. So the proof that this is experiential knowledge is in the living example of the people right now, the Dalai Lama, for example. Anybody with half a brain can see he's kind of something special there, you know. He's a Rigsin of this knowledge coming back to the Buddha. So it should be encouraging that it's not just some dead idea. It's living stuff, you know. It's real. It's doable. And that's why the Buddhist view is not just believing in it. Believing in it for the Buddha is like ridiculous. Oh, I believe in botany. Well, I'm happy you believe in botany, but what good does it do you? It doesn't help you grow a garden. It's good to believe in it. It does work. But to believe in it will not help you do it. So believing in Buddhism, believing in reincarnation, believing in karma, believing in that you can change your mind, what good is that? You got to do it, baby. So it's like very practical, you know. That's the whole plan. So are there any questions in our last 15 minutes? Please ask me questions, anybody. Are there any that written down there, Matt? No. Anybody got a question? No? No questions?
Yes. Hi, Venerable Robina.
Hello, Samantha. Happy to see you, darling.
Nice to meet you.
Yes.
I been trying to meditate during this quarantine period because I live alone, and being alone, it's harder to control. I find that I have to silence a lot of the dialogue in my mind. But my question,
right. Yes.
I'm very interested lately in something called a type of meditation that is gosh, it slips now from my mind. I'm sorry.
Okay.
It's like a closing off of all the senses,
Uh-huh.
where mind um, it's-
What's the goal of it? How does it help, Samantha? Tell me about it. Have you tried it? Does it work? Is
yes,
it?
I've tried it. I
How
just
does
want to
it
make
help?
sure I'm not spiritual bypassing or anything.
Oh, okay. Well, how does it help you? Tell me about it. It's interesting.
It's kind of, I was told it's like a Taoist meditation,
Oh,
but
okay.
it is
Uh-huh.
also in the Tibetan.
It really is it. So have you done it, and how does it, what is the goal of it? What do you
The,
try to
the,
accomplish
the,
with it?
the goal is to nothingness, like close off the five senses,
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
um, do, forget the body, forget the mind, forget
Yeah.
the environment.
Yeah.
Uh, I'm so sorry, I forgot the.
Don't worry about it. It doesn't matter. So is it meant to make you more peaceful, more relaxed, or what?
Yes, I'm having insomnia problems
Yes.
because my
Yes.
brain is too talking.
Of course, that's our busy mind is really too much, isn't
Yeah,
it?
very
Yes.
busy,
Exactly, darling.
especially at night. I don't know
Exactly. I know.
why.
That's very common because you're lying there in the dark and you've got nothing else to do and nothing else to pay attention to. So all the thoughts which are there normally, Samantha, but they're all shouting loud, aren't they?
Yes,
So did you
exactly.
have a particular question, darling?
Yeah, the question was, you talked about calm abiding meditation, and I
Yes.
was wondering if this type of meditation falls under this category.
No, I think it probably doesn't. I think there are so many variations, Samantha, and that's why it's important that we search around and try to find the ones that we find useful, especially to try and find ones that have got an authentic lineage. It's important, you know. So
Yeah,
the one we're talking here, the calm abiding, I mean, the one we did was watching the mind. That's even a bit more difficult, but a very simple one is just to use your breath as the object of your focus. So you sit down, you close your eyes, don't have any expectations of having any feeling good or making the thoughts go away. But by focusing on just the breath, you make it sort of like, you know, you forced yourself, you're not forced, you decide, I'm going to just pay attention to the breath. And by the action of paying attention to one thing, then you don't allow your mind to scatter all over the place. And that action itself, it helps us see the thoughts, which sometimes is, you know, and that's good, but it also can help us steady the mind because you're training, because normally we flit from pillar to post, don't we? But the thing is, Samantha, the Buddhist approach is these thoughts are not going to just go away overnight. This is why I'm saying in this talk that they're all there. We have got the power to harness them and really channel them and transform them. But that's long term. But the part of the process, Samantha, is that we have to learn to not buy into the negative thoughts and the anxious thoughts and the worried thoughts and then think, oh, this is me. That's why we get depressed. So it's sort of a bit like you've got a bunch of roommates outside, a bunch of crazy guys who live next door who never stop shouting. I mean, it's quite difficult to live with these guys, but if you sit there being angry with them all day, you just make the trouble worse. So if you can't get all those crazy guys to move away, part of the process is you find a way to learn to live with it. So then your mind stays more stable. Well, that's the analogy for your crazy thoughts. All of us are like this. They're not at the core of our being, Samantha. When we can have confidence in that, we get less stressed. And so we learn to then hear them, but not buy into them. Let them come and let them go. But that's also why, I mean, if you're on your own and during this pandemic, do you have lots of work to do? You've got lots of things that you can focus your mind on? Do
I
you
don't
have?
have lots of work to do. I'm not
No.
working,
No.
but I can read and use my
Yes.
time maybe more. I could improve using my time and staying
That's,
away
I
from
think
people.
that's, you see, the point is we can get so obsessed with our thoughts and wish they'd all go away, but they won't. But if we focus the good parts of our mind into positive actions, this is very practical. So you really need to use your time more, but it's another method to help you learn to live with all the stuff in the mind. If we just focus on the stuff in the mind the whole time, we'll go nuts. But use your good qualities, use your kindness and your intelligence to plan your day more and do more optimistic, more useful things. This is a very beneficial way to help. I mean, by helping others. I mean, you see, that's what I've been very impressed by the people in the pandemic. So many stories now about people who go out and help others and raise money for things and kids who do it. Then you're using your good qualities, Samantha, which can lift our self-respect. But if we obsess with our thoughts all day and don't do much activity, of course we're going to get depressed. So we've got all these good qualities, and obviously you're a kind person and you've got lots of qualities and you're intelligent. You should use that part of your mind in a more proactive way. And then we'll just let the rubbish old thoughts come and go. It doesn't matter. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. Keep
Thank
moving,
you.
Samantha, darling. Have confidence, okay? Thank you so much. Anybody else?
Robina, there's a comment in the chat box from
Yeah.
Aura.
What does it say?
It says, hi, Venerable Robina, I'm from Colombia. Very grateful to receive this gift. My dog passed away today, and it's quite hard to manage this sad feeling.
Oh, sweetheart, of course. What's your doggy's name? We'll say some prayers right now. Do we have the name? What's the doggy's name?
Yes, she was called Sheena, like the
Sheena.
warrior princess Sheena.
Sheena. Good. Let's just do right now. We'll do a little. We visualize Sheena. We visualize Sheena's consciousness, and we'll visualize that we have the medicine Buddha in front of us. Just imagine the Buddha who's all about healing, and he sends this powerful light out, and it enters into Sheena's mind and all the suffering people in the whole universe, all the suffering people. And we say this mantra of the medicine Buddha, and we say strongly this aspiration that Sheena gets a really good new human rebirth and can meet the Dalai Lama and get a spiritual path and get enlightened. Thinking this strongly for Sheena. Be happy for Sheena. Tayata om bekanze bekanze maha bekanze bekanze ranza samungate svaha. Tayata om bekanze bekanze maha bekanze bekanze ranza samungate svaha. Tayata om bekanze bekanze maha bekanze bekanze ranza samungate svaha. Tayata om bekanze bekanze maha bekanze bekanze ranza samungate svaha. Tayata om bekanze bekanze maha bekanze bekanze ranza samungate svaha. Tayata om bekanze bekanze maha bekanze bekanze ranza samungate svaha. So Sheena and all the suffering people who just died, all the suffering people with COVID-19, all the suffering people all over the world, may all they receive all the blessings of the medicine Buddha so they can achieve their own amazing potential. So may Sheena get a new human birth, all right, and be happy for her. She had you to take care of her, so she had a good life, you know. Okay, darling. Thank you, Aura. Anybody else?
Thank you very much.
Good, darling. Thank you. What else?
We have another comment in the chat box.
Yes. Matt. What is it, Matt?
My name's Larry.
Oh, sorry. I thought I was going to ask Matt to read it out. If Larry's there, you speak for yourself, Larry. Go, baby.
Hi. I have a question. Well, my question is, what's the difference between contemplation and meditation? And when you are sitting in contemplation, can you accidentally slip into meditation?
Well, I think, yeah, it's a really good point. Let's get our definitions clear here, okay? What were you saying your name again was? I forgot. What did you say?
Larry.
Larry. Good, Larry. Thank you. I see you now, Larry. Thank you so much. Well, you know, it's a very broad word, Larry, and I think, you know, there's hundreds of techniques. But if we use the word in Buddhism, there's two main kinds of meditation. So the first one we talked about is a very precise technique that helps us focus the mind. It helps us concentrate. It doesn't have any assumption that necessarily because it's meditation, it's kind of like spaced out or anything, because you can have a very busy meditation, but your aim is to concentrate. Then another kind of meditation on the basis of that is you have visualization meditations, you have analytical meditations where you think things through in a very logical way. You've got many ways of meditating. So that's the Buddhist approach. But contemplation, I think, is just a general word. I mean, often they might use that word in Buddhism. So they talk about first you hear something, then you contemplate or think about it, then you meditate on it. So the whole point about meditation is to help the knowledge go more deeply and become experiential. So it's really, I mean, they're not necessarily contradictory. And I mean, the assumption in your question, can you slip into meditation, seems to be that that's a sort of non-verbal state. That doesn't necessarily follow. So it's quite spacious, really. There's many different definitions of these things, Larry. Did you have a particular definition yourself?
No, I was just thinking that while we're sitting in the position for meditation, contemplating what you're teaching and what you're saying.
Oh, okay.
Can you get so involved in the contemplation and you take the contemplation of what you're saying to such a level that you stop hearing what you're saying and go into some form of meditation or concentration on a certain aspect of what any teacher is saying.
Okay. What I'm hearing, what you're saying, Larry, is that you're there sitting there listening carefully, trying just to taste the meaning, and then suddenly you get a bit of an experience of the meaning. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, that's exactly
Absolutely.
right.
That's called insight. And that's the whole goal, Larry. Eventually, it's sort of like you're practicing the piano and then suddenly you play it beautifully. That's an experience. And that's the same here. You're sitting there focused, you're listening, and then suddenly you can get a taste for the meaning. That's good.
Yeah.
That's the goal. Yes. That's great.
Is that meditation? Once you hit that,
that's called getting an insight in meditation. An insight means a taste for it.
I understand.
It's called concentration meditation and insight meditation.
Yes.
You understand? Good.
Yes.
Sounds good. All right, Larry. 5 minutes to go. What else? People. Any other questions? Any old question?
Venerable Robina, there was a quick comment in the chat box
Yes.
from Lulu Pajor.
Good. Yes.
She said, thank you for hosting this beautiful live call. I listened to Becoming Your Own Therapist in the shower, and I thought you'd find that funny.
Oh, good. Well done. I'm very happy for you.
And now there's another one that just came in
Okay.
the chat box.
Good.
This is from, I think, Oraline. Hi, Venerable Robina. I'd like to fully understand what is self-confidence and self-love and the potential ways to recover it. Since my childhood, I undermine myself and go from failure to failure until I reach the point to lock myself home for years. Whereas many people keep telling me that they see grandiose potential in me. So I no longer feel existing and I want to get out of this loop.
I bet you do, darling. I understand exactly, you know, and it's not going to be magic and it's not overnight and it is a slow process, but the starting point, sweetheart, honestly, the starting point, this is logical. The starting point in anything, even to drive a car, if you're sitting there thinking, I cannot drive a car, and all you think of is the problems, and all you think of what you can't do, you will never drive a car. It's easy to say these words, darling, but this is how we all are. So it's not easy when we're sitting in this, as you're describing so well, like if you're thinking you can't drive for 24 years, it's hard just to change your mind overnight. Absolutely, I understand. But we've got to start somewhere, you know. So that if we can, it's not overnight, it won't happen, but the starting point has to be, as Lama Zopa says, everything exists on the tip of the wish, the thought. It's not crossing your fingers, it's not just sort of hoping for the best, it's logical. And we don't really see this initially, but to start with the thought that you do have potential, you do have good qualities. You do, I mean, I guarantee you've got kindness, you've got generosity, you've got intelligence, you've got good qualities, you're patient, you're generous, you're loving. You do have those qualities. You also have the other qualities, and they're the ones that you've been believing in for so long, and that's why we become paralyzed, you know. And when you say failure, even failure, if we're brave enough, can be good experience, but it's if we allow it to conquer us and crush us, then we believe in the failure more than we believe in the potential. So it sort of seems so tricky and easy in a way. Oh yeah, I just have to believe it and I'll do it. It's kind of true though. So you do have good qualities. You do have good qualities, but when we get habituated with all the other part and the failures happen and the rejections happen, they loom so large for us, sweetheart, and then we believe they're the real me. And this is the tragedy. And as you say, other people see it in you. So you know, you've got, I can tell you for 57 years, you've got these qualities like your friends are, but you have to start literally believing it. One baby step at a time, precious one. So if you do any mantras, maybe you like mantras, I don't know, but even just doing something like the Tara mantra, she's very much this Buddha that represents power and confidence and self-confidence, exactly that. So even if you can learn that mantra, say that mantra, I'll sing it a few times just now, and you listen to it and even take that, and just with this little tiny glimpse of hope in yourself, you have this mantra, you sing it, and this aspiration, may I develop my potential, may I see my potential. We keep it very small first, you know. So now we visualize green light coming from this blissful, radiant, self-confident Buddha, Tara, action, confidence, success. Om Tare Tu Svaha. Om Tare Tu Svaha. Om Tare Tu Svaha. Om Tare Tutare Ture Svaha. Om Tare Tutare Ture Svaha. Om Tare Tutare Ture Svaha. To every one of us, every one of us. We understand what she says. Every one of us. Start small, start brave with a thought. Everything exists on the tip of the wish, and then we grow it, We can do it. This is our potential. There's no question. So much love, everybody. So nice to see you with this little hour. A few positive thoughts, hopefully.
Robina. Thank you. Love you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much.
Ma ke panam ke guchig ke panyam pa me payang gong ne gong ju peva shog. May this marvelous bodhicitta grow and grow in the hearts of all. Keep
Thank you,
moving.
Robina.
Much love, people.
Love you,
See
Robina.
you next Sunday.
Thank
Bye,
you.
darling. Bye,
Thank you
everybody. Bye, Claire.
Love
Thank you.
you.
Bye, Fernando. Bye, bye.
Bye, Venerable Robina.
Bye.
Thank you.